My generation are very politically informed, very active, and very passionate about not having their activism be totally verbal and agreeing that actions speak louder than words. They do not speak about their work, they just do it. They just go and they help people. And that's the kind of attitude we need.
Welcome back to another season of Monique and Friends, Our Stories Unscripted. I'm your host, Monique Hayward, and we are kicking off season 2 with something really special. When I started this podcast, I wanted to have real conversations with the people who have shaped my life. And today, I'm sitting down with two of the youngest and brightest people in my family. My niece, Ashley, who's almost 19, and my nephew, Isaiah, who just turned 15. We're talking about what it's like growing up in their generation, how they see the world, what they learned from the pandemic years, and what they're hoping for in the future. It's real, it's honest, and it's a conversation I think a lot of families need to have right now. So let's get into it.
Hi.
Hello, how are you, niece and nephew? Welcome to Monique and Friends, Our Stories Unscripted. And this actually is the kickoff of my second season, and I'm focusing on talking to my family. And so, as my favorite niece and nephew, oh, wait a minute, my only niece and nephew, I wanted to talk to you because I think we don't spend enough time as older adults just having real unscripted conversations with your generation. So I'm really interested in hearing about your lives and the things that are important to you. So, Ashley, Isaiah, why don't you introduce yourselves to the audience and tell us a little bit about yourself? What do you do in your spare time and what do you do for fun?
I'm Ash. I'm 18. I try to keep a pretty broad range of interests and hobbies. Right now, I'm really into formulating my own cosmetics. I also do digital illustrations as well as some traditional art and multimedia stuff. I'm currently getting a degree in interior design and I'm just enjoying life.
That's fantastic. Yes, you're quite the artist, and we'll definitely be talking more about that. How about you, Isaiah?
My name's Isaiah. I'm 15. I don't have as many interests. I usually just go out shopping with my friends or collect figurines.
Okay. So going out shopping, where did you get the bug for shopping?
Just my collecting, liking getting figures of like movies and shows I'm interested in, really.
Okay, great. Well, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is how you are seeing the world as Generation Z. I think that those of us in the older generations, like your dad and I are Generation X, and your grandma is a baby boomer. We don't often just sit down and have these kinds of open and direct conversation between the generations. And I thought that it would be interesting for our audience to hear, what is it that people in your generation are thinking about? What is it that you have hope for in the future, and how you are seeing the world? So tell me this: what is something about your generation that you wish that older people like us better understood?
I wish it was understood that many of us are operating from a place of fear regarding the overall world. There is a distinct air of disillusionment and anxiety, I suppose, that drives just about everything we do, the way we consume, the way we create, the way we connect with each other. But even within that fear, there's even more hope and a desire to forge the world we wish to live in.
So tell me a little bit more, Ashley, and Isaiah, feel free to jump in. Where does that fear come from?
It comes from the infrastructure surrounding us, the changing of our planet, and all of the forces, the downward forces that we find ourselves subjected to at this time. I know many people in great financial hardship through no fault of their own, and there's a general sense that the safety nets we're supposed to have in place are failing or non existent. So there's a very real sense of urgency and survival in at least my social sphere. But within that, there is a strong sense of community. There's a lot of crowdfunding, mutual aid, people constantly banding together to help one another. And it's very inspiring to see what people can do when they come together as a true community rather than a very individualist society of people governed only by their self-interest rather than for the betterment of those they're surrounded by.
Right. I really like the notion of the community coming to each other's aid. As you said, there has been there's been kind of a, a de-investment in the social safety net.
Yes.
And yeah, and that has been something that has been quite a challenge, especially for younger people. Like the cost of living has gone up so much. People who want to go to college are finding that it's super expensive and, just out of reach, unaffordable. Even basics, so necessities are out of reach for a lot of people in terms of how they are planning and living their lives. So, Isaiah, what is your vantage point being in high school now? What are you and your friends talking about and wish that we understood a little bit better?
Just that we understand what's happening, I guess, because a lot of older generations or older people in general have this, well, feeling that the younger generation just doesn't know anything or what's happening for the sole reason that we have been alive to see all of it, which is not true at all because like me and my friends, we keep up with what's happening in the world and all that stuff, and it just feels like it's not really seen as like, oh, you actually know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally get what you mean. And I think that a lot of us, as we are growing up, have this feeling that our elders don't really get it, even though we are totally plugged in as young people to what is going on. And what I've always admired about the two of you is how incredibly tuned in you are to what's going on in the world. I wonder if that isn't part and parcel of the fact that your dad is in the news business and you're constantly just aware of the issues of the day, the struggles in society that get covered on a daily basis, the politics of it all. So you probably have more exposure to it maybe than a lot of other young people, but you're certainly very tuned in to the reality of what life is like in the year 2025. I really appreciate it about you because we can have conversations like this, and it's actually insightful for me to learn where you are, and I think to continue to be open to possibility that there is hope for the future, right?
Yeah. I think being plugged into the news can certainly be a double edged sword. I think it's our responsibility as citizens to be informed about what's going on, to secure the safety of ourselves and those around us. However, there is such a constant stream of information, and having it constantly fed to you can be quite overwhelming at times and can spark feelings of doom. I believe I've done a fairly good job at making sure I don't fall into hopelessness and I only allow it to invigorate me, but it can certainly be a challenge at times.
Yeah, I'm amazed at the deluge of information that comes your way, particularly as your generation are truly the digital natives. Like you grew up with devices, you grew up online, you grew up with all of these social media applications and the technology advances and innovations that our generation didn't really have to worry about so much. And even when I was growing up, right, I felt like I was getting deluged with information constantly. And that was in the 1980s and 90s, right? It was like, you really just can't physically take in that much information and do something with it in a way that is productive and still be able to make good decisions, I think, sometimes.
Yes, it can be quite difficult. What I've found helps is not allowing myself to only consume information. I also have to do something with it. I have to attend events. I have to actually help people. And while we shouldn't do those things just for our own peace of mind, it certainly helps. And you can't help anybody when you yourself are not in the best place. put your air mask on before helping others, is what they say on a flight. And unfortunately, that is the mindset that we have to apply to our daily lives. But I think that myself and many of my peers have reached a really good point of balance in the information we're taking in and what we're doing with it.
Yeah, I think that brings up a really good point. I follow an NYU professor, Scott Galloway, and one thing that he really likes to say is that action absorbs anxiety. And I think that what you were just saying, Ashley, is indicative of that ethos, right? That you can sit around and, be depressed, you can be anxious, you can be upset, you can, feel like you're hopeless, but, do something, right? The more that you can actually do something in the direction of something that's positive, in the direction of something that's optimistic, in the direction of something that's hopeful, then that eases your pain, that eases your anxiety, because then you feel like you're really contributing.
Hopelessness does not benefit the people that we wish to have hope for. I think it's our responsibility to hold on to hope in whatever ways we can.
Yes, absolutely. So let me switch gears a little bit and talk to you about your experience when you were younger. And particularly the COVID-19 pandemic, because the two of you were in middle school and high school, I think, when the pandemic hit, right? And
Yes.
yeah, and I want to talk to you about how it shaped you, because that, I think, is one of those defining moments for your generation, was that experience. What do you remember most about that time? And again, how did it shape you and your friendships and how you see your future?
So for me, COVID hit when I was finishing up eighth grade. Uh, Dad actually took us out of school a week before everything shut down because he was plugged in. He knew. He was like, yeah, we're getting you out. The rest of that year was digital and honestly very uncoordinated because no one knew what was happening, what was going to happen. So there were a lot of technical issues we dealt with, and it felt like a lot of people were passed, like an obligatory pass, because there wasn't a whole lot that could be done at that point. In terms of how it affected me socially and my generation socially, I suppose the effects are still here because me and my friend group still continue to mask. We're still plugged into medical literature. We're very aware of the long term health effects of COVID, and the data is increasingly gloomy. So, for us, it has shaped the way that we host events and attend events. We still go out and have fun. We don't prevent it from letting us live our lives, but we still take extra precautions, such as masking and avoiding really densely crowded large events. I believe it's led to people being a lot more aware of their health and of their mortality. A lot of widespread grief does that. It pushes you to reflect on yourself. I think it has certainly caused a divide within the people of my generation who continue to take precautions and those who do not. But all of my friends continue to, and we probably will for the foreseeable future. At one point, I was rather sad that it was something we had to continue doing, but I don't even notice it now, especially because thankfully mask technology has gotten better. There's manufacturers making really comfortable, easy to wear masks that I forget I'm wearing. I suppose it's heightened our awareness of disease overall, not just COVID, but all airborne viruses. I find that people are adopting practices that are common in other countries, such as Japan, where people frequently wear masks on public transit or airports. Things that are kind of a no brainer are becoming more widespread, which I think overall is good.
Yeah, I travel frequently to Asia, and you're right. It's not out of the norm to be in places like Korea or Japan or China and be on mass transit, and most people will have a mask on.
What about you?
Yeah, what about you, Isaiah?
Well, pandemic hit when I was fourth, fifth grade. I don't really have much to say on how it impacted me socially, to be honest, but I absolutely can talk about the divide that Ashley just referred to earlier, which is the people who continuously try to mask and take precautions, and those who did not and just kept going about and ended up either getting sick themselves or even usually giving it to others as well, which was not good. Still isn't, because it does still happen. I still mask the same as she said.
How does that divide manifest itself in your friend groups? I mean, is there tension? Is there conflict? Do you have conversations about it?
That is a really good question. The events that I attend and the people I run into are very much on my wavelength. I try not to live in an echo chamber or anything, but it's uncommon for me to come across anyone who is hostile to masking or general COVID precautions. I've really cultivated a social circle of people who value their health and value the health of others in their community. And I have to say, it is really wonderful to be surrounded by people who believe that your health is more important than their convenience or their comfort. And overall, it signifies a level of dignity and respect that carries over into other social situations, how they carry themselves in daily life, how they treat strangers. Overall, it's a highly positive indicator. But yeah, I wouldn't say there's a whole lot of tension, at least not in my life. I simply don't allow myself to get in a position where that's a major issue. Most of the events I attend encourage or require people to wear a mask still. And those events are becoming more common. There was certainly a point in time where people stagnated and sort of stopped doing that. But as of recent, especially in the, I'm very active in the local music scene. I go to a lot of DIY shows, and there's a quite a few bands who've had to cancel tours or banned completely because of lasting health problems due to COVID. So people are really taking it seriously. They're understanding that it can impact your life and your career in ways that they may not have anticipated. Especially, I suppose there's this idea that if you are young and healthy, that you are immune and that you have a very low chance of developing those health issues. But unfortunately, I've seen firsthand that's not the case. It's just about taking precautions. I don't feel fear when I put my seatbelt on. It's just a precaution. It's something that keeps me safe in the event of an accident. But the seatbelt is not because I have this like deep aching fear of a car crash.
No, that's a great way to put it. There's nothing wrong with taking precautions. There's nothing wrong with being vigilant about your own safety, about your own security. Yeah, and especially about your own health. Because at the end of
Yes.
the day, you really don't have anything else in this world if you're not healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I know too many people who have long-term health issues that lead to long-term financial issues, and that's sort of a self-perpetuating cycle because if you can't afford healthcare, it piles on itself. So we're all
Right.
very
Even at your age, you're finding that there are people who are already out the chute who are struggling with these kinds of issues.
yes, I know some of them, and so it's very close to my heart.
Well, yeah, definitely. I think you want to have a healthy balance and make sure that you're not getting so consumed with such bad news. I mean, a lot of it is hard to take. A lot of it is depressing.
Yes, it certainly can be. But like I said, going out and doing things helps. Like a lot of the independent music shows I attend are actually fundraisers for both issues domestic and abroad. It feels really good to know that your money is going to people who need it rather than going to a concert where I know half my money's going to Ticketmaster or whatever. It's good to know my money's going to feeding local musicians or displaced people. That makes me feel good.
Right. Yeah, you have a healthy blend of fun that fuels activism.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's really good to take something people are already going to be doing. People are always going to go out to shows and utilize it for a greater purpose.
All right. Well, I'm going to ask you both to visualize yourselves in the next 5 to 10 years. You're in your 20s. What does life look like for you?
I have a clean and quiet home.
I love the emphasis on clean and quiet.
I've
I think you might have gotten that from somebody.
yes, I have a clean and quiet home, except for all the cat fur and cat noises.
Yes. I think you also might have gotten that from somebody.
Yes, I would love to, I suppose, just cultivate a home that aligns with my beliefs and how I wish to live. I have thankfully tons of friends who want to live with me at some point. I've got friends that are planning to move to Atlanta soon, so that's certainly on the horizon. But I know several people in their 20s who are just living with 3 to 5 friends and find themselves very happy. It's also the more financially reasonable option, but thankfully I'm a very social person. I'd be happy to live with a bunch of my friends.
And then how do you visualize your work?
My work, it's so hard to say at this point in time. Everything's up in the air, especially the creative industry. Unfortunately, being an illustrator at this time is quite difficult with the rise of generative AI. I have friends that were professional illustrators, but they've had to return to retail jobs in the wake of everything. So I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket, but I do think that my artistic skills can expand beyond just visual art, and I can continue to create things that will be worth buying. So I would love to make at least a bit of a profit off of my art at some point. But I have other ideas. I would certainly love to work in a museum or in archives. Anything to do with the preservation of history would make me quite happy. And further off, I am interested in pursuing the field of psychedelic medicine. Emory University has a wing dedicated to it, and I'm very fascinated by the science and what we've seen and how it can treat people with severe mental health issues. So I think I'd be really happy in making that medicine more accessible and affordable to people who otherwise wouldn't be able to get it.
Wow, that's amazing. All right, Isaiah, fast forward 10 years, you're 25 years old. What does life look like for you?
I do not really know. I'll be honest. I don't have a very set plan. College is something I'm hoping to have a real standpoint for. Hopefully, well, 25, probably just getting out of that then.
Hmm.
Um,
What are
something
you interested in? What are you pursuing academically, you think, that will line you up for ultimately what you think you want to do?
either physics, space, or some combination of that. I enjoy that, whether it be engineering or literal like physics or
He's always engineering things in the backyard. And
Yes.
when a child does things like that in the backyard, it's small scale, but he's no longer a child. So we now have, like, he's like a scrap metal collector.
So do we have the next Neil deGrasse Tyson on our hands?
Possibly.
Oh, our cat has
Debbie has
entered the
joined us
picture.
if you have any questions for her.
Yeah, do I have any questions for the cat? Nice, tail to the camera. All right, then. In thinking about, you actually mentioned, Ashley, a little bit about generative AI and advances in technology. What do each of you think about the way that AI is shaping your experience? What do you think it's going to do for you in your career?
Overall, the reception has been quite negative, and I think people assume it's because we are opposed to technological advancements, and it's certainly not. It's that we're opposed to the way that they are implemented in our current society. You know, I mean, that could apply to so many forms of technology. Breakthroughs in the field of medicine will often be used for worse things. The same seems to be happening with generative AI. For us creatives, it is quite frightening. And obviously on an economic level it is, but also on a artistic and personal level, I am quite open-minded about the tools that people use to create art, and I try not to be especially pretentious, but myself and most other artists do not have the warmest feelings towards generated art. It often has a soulless quality to it, and at this point, I think it often reflects the idea that more skill equals better art. Place an opinion that comes from a place that I think not many artists themselves hold. It's sort of an outsider opinion of what is the most technically skilled possible thing you can do, rather than what is speaking from your heart, what you want to put out there, your actual vision. I find that many other artists that are of a very high caliber, professional artists, we love amateur art. We love bad art. We love art that is from someone that doesn't have any professional training, because it has the imperfections of a human, and that's what makes art beautiful to us.
Right. And it's also good to see how people evolve over time.
Yeah.
Nobody starts their career being Cezanne, right?
Yes.
You work through a journey of discovery as an artist.
Yes, and seeing people's styles evolve, seeing rudimentary, authentic artwork develop into something more polished, that's beautiful. But when someone who's never picked up a pencil, is able to computer generate a realistic painting, it doesn't really mean anything. There was no struggle, there was no journey, and there is no imperfection that indicates a beating heart behind the canvas.
Yeah, exactly. It was only as good as the prompt that somebody wrote to generate it.
Yes. And again, I'm not opposed to technology assisting artists. I'm a primarily digital artist. I do work digitally. But generative AI, also, there's the issue of data scraping, how it infringes upon other artists, and of course, the environmental aspect. The water used to cool down these data centers. I recently saw an interview with a woman whose home, her water pressure is all the way down because of a nearby data center. And it's directly impacting people. So our generation, I mean, again, that's a heavy generalization, but many people within my generation are very averse to it morally, artistically, and just in terms of how, looping back around to how it's used creatively, there is no joy of creation. I don't draw just to have the finished product. I do it because it's therapeutic, because I like the way it feels, because the process is important. It's like the difference between cooking something yourself and a microwave meal.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. So, Isaiah, what are your thoughts about it? Because you're heading in that direction with your career focus around engineering and particularly aerospace.
I think I think that AI, artificial intelligence, which isn't entirely the correct term because that implies you learn knowledge of what it does. But I don't think it's entirely a bad thing, but I think it has been made. I think we live in a place where it can only be that because of mainly just the corporate use of it. A good example would be, I know Ashley talked a lot about generative and creative aspects. The writers and actors strike, it focused very heavily on large corporations using AI to, one, write scripts for movies, cutting out script writers as a whole, like their jobs and like their livelihood, as well as using generative AI to scan the model of an actor and then use them in the movie, like background actors and stuff. Meaning that all they have to do is get paid for a one-time scan and they own the likeness to that person forever and can use it. AI is a great tool and it can be used for a lot of good, but it's used for things like that. It's not used to better people. It's not used to give people more information. It is used for large corporations to save more money and to pay less people. As well as it just not being very smart overall.
It's not.
Yeah, I can tell you this from my own personal experience. I even have a subscription to ChatGPT, and no matter how many times I tell this AI that my business partner is not my husband, it continues to think that my business partner and I are married.
Yeah, it's because, like Isaiah said, the term artificial intelligence is kind of a misnomer. The way we think of it, it's a language learning model. It's not a sentient thing with neurons. It's scraping the internet for patterns of words and trying to find the most likely pattern of words.
Exactly. It's predictive. That's what it is. It's
Yes.
not, like you said, it's not sentient. It has no logic per se, except what's been programmed to be the next possible opportunity around what it is that you're searching for or what it is that you're trying to create.
Yes, I believe ChatGPT has seriously impacted academics, particularly high school and college students seem to be very heavily reliant on it. And I believe it degrades our critical thinking skills for the most part. I don't believe people are using it in a way, people aren't using it like a tutor, they're using it like a cheat book. While some blame falls on them, I also understand it ties into the larger issue that many people aren't attending college for a love of knowledge or because they care about their degree. They want the piece of paper that they think is going to get them a job so they don't have to work themselves to the bone. So I can only blame them so much. But it's certainly frightening to think about your future engineers and doctors not actually understanding the material they're supposed to.
Yeah, that's a scary prospect, isn't it? Yeah, nobody wants their doctor to have kind of chat GPT their way to their degree.
When everything is so new, there's not specific laws in place. So a lot of this is in a gray area. But it's very frightening to think about the people who seem to be the most reliant on it. I've seen a frightening amount of people in the medical industry who treat ChatGPT's words like the Bible. They
Oh,
truly
wow.
believe what it's saying, even though it's been known to make up sources, make up studies. So I find it's bleeding into our distrust of a lot of entities when we're seeing just completely falsified information. The age of misinformation is over. We are in the age of disinformation, which is
Hmm.
active, I suppose, just lies.
Yeah, it is. That's what disinformation is absolutely intended to get you to consume the wrong information and come to the wrong conclusion about reality.
Yes, I think this has led to a strong emphasis on discernment within my generation. We are very diligent about fact checking, about looking into every source, about making sure the people quoted in an article actually exist. Things that you didn't have to do for, at least not to the same extent, for quite some time. It's very upsetting to be reading an article and then suddenly realize it's computer generated and that some of the information in it is false. One particularly frightening example is I recently saw I believe it's since been taken down, but there was a mushroom foraging guidebook on Amazon that was computer generated. And if you know anything about mushrooms, you'll know why that is an incredibly dangerous thing to be sold. And of course, anyone with basic knowledge of these mushrooms would open the book and realize it's generated. For a first timer who's just trying to find a guidebook to safely forage, they're going to stumble upon misinformation and potentially hurt themselves. AI generated books are quite frightening for that reason.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because you do need humans to actually create that kind of content because the risk is too high for personal injury for sure. Well, let's wrap up with a couple of personal reflections from the two of you. So, what have you learned about yourself in the last year that surprised you?
That is a good question. I've found that I am a lot more social than I previously thought. I think for quite some time I would have thought of myself as an introvert, but I just wasn't going to the right places and meeting the right people. Now that I've found a crowd that aligns with me, I love going out. I do it at every opportunity. And I love that I have enough friends now that I don't typically tell people I'm going to show up somewhere or plan to meet up. I just show up and then my friends are there, which is such a lovely feeling.
That is a great feeling. How about you, Isaiah?
I would I would say engineering. I never really, because for the longest time I've always focused on either space or physics. Especially in the last year because I took an engineering course. I I really enjoy it. I like looking for the best solution. I like modeling. I like testing out prototypes. It's enjoyable to troubleshoot things until you get it right. So
That's fantastic because the world needs more engineers, that's for sure. Good. My retirement is guaranteed. Thank you, too. So, we have this segment that I do on the podcast called Ask Monique Anything. And we are going to do a special edition with the two of you. Normally, I take audience's questions and I answer their questions. But since I have the two of you here, what are your burning questions for your Auntie Monique?
I would like to know what technological advancements you're excited to see.
I share some of the trepidation about artificial intelligence that you do, but I'm also super excited about it. I have realized as a marketing expert that there are ways that I can collaborate with artificial intelligence to help me with solving marketing problems and creating plans, creating strategies, thinking about how I can execute the campaigns that I want to promote the businesses, to promote the products, to promote the solutions that I want to bring to market. It's really a good tool for brainstorming for me. So that's one thing I'm really excited about. The other thing I'm excited about is how communications networks continue to evolve. I think that we're on the cusp of something completely different now when it comes to social media. I'm eager for the next thing because there's just been a lot of saturation, and we talked earlier about misinformation, disinformation, lack of trust around these networks. I think that we are headed in a direction now where we're going to have more personalized networks and more opportunities for one-on-one connections than kind of this one-to-many environment that we've been dealing with for the last 10, 15 years. But the other thing that I'm really excited about that has nothing to do with technology is how your generation actually is waking up to the fact that there is a real world and that face-to-face interaction is critical for community, critical for establishing connections, and critical to the advancement of the things that you want to do in your life and your career. So yeah, stop hiding behind screens and get out into the real world. I'm super excited about that for sure.
Yeah, most certainly. I think our generation has sort of an aversion to social media in a way I don't see with any others. One might assume that we're the most positive about it, given that we're the most ingrained, but I think many of us are sick of it. A lot of people I know don't use any social media, or if they do, it's very minimal. A lot of people I know don't even like communicating digitally for the most part, or if they do it on like encrypted platforms. People are also very, very aware of privacy and data. So yeah, we definitely prioritize face-to-face communication. People are just burning to get out and do something that doesn't require a phone.
All right, what's your next question?
I guess I'll just say, what are some things in the future that you are, I guess, more worried about, either technology or just overall?
Broadly speaking, I do worry about the country. Yes, I do worry about the direction that we're heading. I worry about the political polarization. I worry about the discourse being coarse. I also am really kind of tired of Donald Trump, to be honest. That man has been a consistent fixture in my life practically since as long as I've been alive. Because, we're originally from New York City. And so he was always in the backgrounds, when in my childhood. And then as he started to become famous as a reality television star, as a real estate developer, then become, a politician, it's just, he has just been a fixture in my life for too long. And I'm just really tired of him.
Yeah, I think our generation certainly shares the same idea, but I think for many of us, it has extended beyond him and towards the systems in place that allowed someone like him to even step foot in office. And a lot of people my age are advocating for much more extreme reforms and alternative systems of living because they're just so sick of it. Again, the generalization, but many my generation are very politically informed, very active, and very passionate about not having their activism be totally verbal and agreeing that actions speak louder than words. I know many people who have no social media presence. They do not speak about their work. They just do it. They just go and they help people. And that's the kind of attitude we need.
Right. Absolutely. Well, on that note, this has been such a fantastic conversation.
It has.
I am so proud of the two of you. You're so amazingly smart and gifted and talented. I have so much hope for the future, knowing that the two of you are carving out a path in this world.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. It's wonderful to express what our generation is thinking and feeling. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
All right. We love you.
Yes, I love you. That's a wrap on this special family edition of Monique and Friends. Big love to Ashley and Isaiah for sharing their voices, their humor, and their hearts with us today. I hope it inspires you to sit down with the young people in your life and really listen to what's on their minds. We've got more incredible conversations coming your way this season, so be sure to follow the show on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And hey, if you've got a question for the next AMA, you know where to find me. Until next time, keep telling your story and living it unscripted.